Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mysterious Worlds Talk Show. Tonight's show is going to be absolutely brilliant. I've got as a very special guest, and she's done something that no guest has ever done. She's split herself into two. So, without further ado, here is Lynda Brookes. Hello, Lynda.
Hi, Paul, and my other.
I'm
Lynda Brookes.
Talk about a split personality, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. No guest has ever split themselves into two. That's brilliant. Well done.
Yeah. First time for everything.
Yeah, the yin and the yang.
Yeah,
absolutely. So how have you been then? How have you been?
I'm okay, thank you very much, Paul. Yeah. Very busy, but okay.
Good. Yeah, same here, very much. Just busy all the time, working events and all things paranormal and stuff. So
absolutely,
always good to keep busy.
Brilliant. Is that your main job, just doing paranormal events?
It is, alongside my spiritual side as well, because obviously I do a lot of spiritual work regarding developments, helping others do developments in spirituality and also readings. Brilliant. So along with the paranormal, along with family life and everything else in between. Yeah. So a lot of juggling of plates, as the saying goes, certainly fills my day.
But for the people that don't know who you are, do you want to just go back and tell people how you got into the paranormal and how Brookes Paranormal come about?
Yeah. My first thing of getting into the paranormal went back right to my childhood, really, because I've always seen, felt, and communicate with spirits. So I've had that right from the age of 7 when I had my first encounter with spirit. So that always got me intrigued. And then, of course, along come the TV show. I'm sorry to say, Most Haunted. Everyone watched it back in its day, and of course that got me even more intrigued with the way that they investigated, more so the buildings that they were in as well, because they went in some fabulous venues, so that got me really curious about spirit and different venues, different locations, different energies. So I actually went on then to progress onto going on to events myself, and then from there I got more and more intrigued the more I did it, and the more evidence that I got, the more communication I got with spirit of all different kinds, different time periods. That led me then to want to do something ourselves, which led to the starting of Brookes Paranormal.
Cool.
And I think the events that I'd been on were, obviously companies that had quite a lot of volume of people within the confines of the locations. I didn't find it really that much of an experience. Obviously I was spiritual, so I got something out of it. But certainly the other people that I saw that were struggling to, get any evidence because of the noise contamination, because there were too many people in one area, or they were very closely split into groups, but there were still too many of them in a smaller space. So there wasn't much gap between them to stop flow from contamination from one group to the other, which I didn't think was really, from an evidential point of view, was really able to achieve that much. So, after going on to so many, I thought it'd be really nice to offer people who genuinely have got a passion for the paranormal, as we have, to give them a space to actually do something within the confines of the building, but on so much of a smaller scale, so they have more personalized experience rather than 30-40 people all around them and then they get none. So that's the reason why we started up Brookes Paranormal, to give people something else, something different, something more to their liking, more of a personal experience. More to give them the idea what it's like in a smaller confined group in a building to what it would be like in a much larger scale of volume of people in the same building, so they could get a better gauge for the activity as well.
That's it.
And how did you get into the paranormal?
Lynda, yeah.
Lynda.
Well, for me, my kind of interest with the paranormal started with a certain TV show, Most Haunted, just like with many others. And again, it was more so the interest of investigating historical buildings and finding ghosts, finding spirits, trying to get the evidential proof that there is an afterlife. And I thought that was the whole idea and concept was very interesting. And it kind of also drew my interest with history as well, because I'm a huge history nerd. I love going into buildings, even just glancing up at the decor and the architecture. I absolutely love it. And I'm a strong believer in that where there's history, there's ghosts. And so for me, it's always been about, you know, going into these old buildings and investigating. But like I said, with the Most Haunted show, it was from there my interest in the paranormal started. And then there'd been a whole other bunch of shows that come out since then. And then just like you, Lynda too.
Lynda 1.
Yeah, Lynda 1, Lynda 2. Just like you, then I started going to do public events on other companies' events, investigate that way. And it was really enjoyable, you know, getting to go into these places after hours and, you know, after dark, and to see what activity we could get. But as Lynda's already pointed out, the trouble with going on these was that there was a lot of people that were in the building. We're talking 40 odd people, and it's when you're trying to get that sort of experience or that evidence, it's very, very difficult because it could, you know, you hear a bang. Well, it could just be the other group in the room next door that's got 10 people in it. You just, or you know, you hear a voice. It might just be a group of 4 people in the corner giggling or something like that. So it was very hard to try and get proper evidential proof or any sort of experience out of it all. It was lovely to get in some of the places in the buildings, but other than that, it was a bit of a nightmare. And so that kind of led into, again, what Lynda said, you know, into us doing our own events. We thought, well, you know, we want to give people an experience because, you know, it's how we would feel if we go into a place. We want to get an experience. We want to
feel something, pick up something activity wise.
Exactly.
If we're hearing audibles, we want to make sure it's not contamination from somewhere else or someone else. You know, so all of those factors we obviously thought very long and hard about it and said, you know, it'd really be great to give others that space, that place to get into some of these venues on a smaller scale, and to be able to obviously then split them down into even smaller groups, spread them far and wide so we're not contaminating each other. So is that way then anything they do get evidential wise, it makes it easier to debunk one way or the other, whether it's evidence or whether it's something else.
Yeah. Do you think you get a lot of evidence through the public investigations?
Or we do actually, we do.
You don't put it down to like personal experiences as opposed to actual evidence.
I'd say it's probably a mixture of both. Yeah, definitely.
We've had it where people will come onto these events and they'll have family members come through.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind, you know, it might be through either pendulum or on a spirit board, and
through themselves.
Or through themselves. But they'll have like a bunch of different people around them who also pick up on similar information, or if not the exact same information. And then people will go, oh, that's my late grandmother, that's my late aunt. And you know, people leave with that kind of personal experience that means something to them, but also will get experiences to do with the building or the land it's on itself as well. So, you know, with buildings, you always get different stories of reported hauntings. And we try and see if we can, first of all, call out and see if we get any sort of reaction, but then go from there and see if any of the activity, if we do get any, it correlates with what other people are picking up on as well.
And we do always document everything, whether it's a public event or whether it is just a paranormal team event. It doesn't matter what it is. It's always documented. It's always everything down. Is, you know, anything that we do in our team stuff, we document. Anything we do in the public domain, it's documented as well. All the team members always document, even on their own vigils, what goes off in them, what evidence they get, what communication they get, any names, dates, anything that we can correlate and then look at and see if there's anything that repeats in each of the groups. What those dates mean, the names, what they mean, you know, if we can find any history that might well attain to those. So, you know, we do go a bit more in depth than just doing the event and saying it right, you know, this is what we're doing the investigation side, and then just leaving it at that. We do go the extra mile with the documentation and the research of the documents as well as the actual research of the building. You know,
and what do you do once you've documented your investigation? Do you put it online, or
at the moment we're keeping them offline, keeping them at the moment to ourselves, purely on the basis that we want to see whether we can build up a story from them, and obviously because we often find that you'll get just little bits and sporadic, a bit of information until you get to investigating a building long enough to actually really get to the nitty gritty of what's going on in it. And obviously I've been like investigating, for instance, one of the locations, the Robin Hood experience. I've been doing that for nearly 6 years straight, investigating that building. And obviously with doing that, you peel all the layers of the history, who's in there, who isn't, are they constantly there, or are they just coming and going, and who are they, you know, what are they doing there, what's the reason they're there? And of course, you know, it takes time for spirit to trust you to tell you anything, first and foremost. Absolutely. You know, I mean, you're going into their home, their place, their space. So to get them to open up and give you all of that information on the first 2, 3, 4 even investigations is extremely difficult, because they don't know who you are. You come from a different time period. They see you as spirit as much as you see them that way. So, you know, it's scary to them to have somebody who wanders in and they're thinking, hold on a minute, that's spirit there. What are they doing here? And we're like, no, you're spirit. You know, that's the confusion that you're dealing with. And obviously then you have to get them, as I say, then to lower the barriers down, to talk to you, to communicate, to interact with the things that you bring, and let them know how to interact with them as well, you know. So there's a multitude of things you have to do first before you start even get that communication process underway, you know. And be able
very
to
much like that movie, The Others.
Yeah, it's very much like that, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So what location have you been to that you think is just amazing?
Oh gosh. We actually was asked this question not that long ago, and to be quite fair, I don't think there's any one location I can honestly say that is the one, because I've been into so many, and each one of them in turn have all got their own uniqueness about them. They've got their own unique spirit activity that goes in and out of the building. So I really couldn't say for sure that there's one, apart from obviously the Robin Hood, which I've obviously been documenting a lot longer than some of the other locations. So from that point of view, it's good from the evidential point of view of who they are, what they're doing there, and why they're consistently there. More to the point, you know, I mean, you get spirits that are there sometimes when you go into a location, you go back again, they're not there, you go back again, they're not there, then on the 4th or 5th time they're back again. You know, where did they go for the other times that you've got into the building when they're not there? You know, and then you get other locations where you're getting spirit that are coming in that have never been in that building before, because it's not where they dwell. It's like they've followed somebody else in. They've followed either people in, or they've followed in other spirit people belong to the building, because they see that the people that can communicate with them. So they come out of curiosity. They're not there for any other reason. And just want acknowledging that they are around still, you know. So there's a whole different layers of different reasons why I like certain buildings. And obviously, as I say, the one that definitely sticks out more so than any of them at the moment is definitely the Robin Hood experience, because it's the most investigated and the most evidence that we've had in one building over such a long time. So it really is interesting.
Do you think that the more a location's investigated, the less activity you get?
I'd say it's probably the other. Actually, I'd say you get more, because they trust you. They know who you are. They know why you're there.
Yeah.
And I think when they get comfortable,
I think it all depends on how many times in a period of time it gets investigated.
Yeah,
because I think if it's a place that's done every single day for like a year, I do think the energy is going to start dwindling. Because at the end of the day, you know, we always say spirits aren't performing monkeys. No. They're not going to just show up and put on a performance and all that. You know, we get activity, great, but, you know, we've got to respect the spirits that are in there.
Definitely.
You know, just as we would respect any other human being. Because at the end of the day, that's what they once were. They were humans. And I think, you know, like I say, investigating many times within a certain period of time, I do think it dwindles the energy a bit. It does. Yeah.
And plus they get fed up with being asked the same questions as well. You know, so it's like, you know, who are you? What are you doing here? Knock twice for yes, once for no. They're like, oh, for heaven's sake, will you just go away?
300th time.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, sometimes it's not a case of they're not there. They are. It's just they think, you know what, I've done this so many times. I'm not doing it again. I'm off. You know, I'm going for a cuppa. I'm sick of listening
to take the monopoly with you or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
I don't know.
But yeah, as I say, I think it does go on a lot on the actual amount of times that a building can be investigated. You know, I sometimes think it's best to leave a gap between going back rather than going back every sort of like week, 2 weeks. I'd like to leave at least, you know, like for instance, the Robin Hood one, as many months as we can to let it settle, because we know that there are other teams going in there, albeit not all of them do get very much in the way out of activity. Some get amazing activity there. Again, it's down to the actual people themselves as well, you know, how they are in their own perceptions, you know, whether they're open to spirit and they're open-minded, or are they completely closed off and skeptical. If so, obviously they won't get much in the way of activity because they're already closed off to it. So
Or when you investigate, do you do like with the public? Do you do more spiritual work, or do you use the gadgets and stuff?
Both. We do both. Yeah, we do both because I think both is a good mixture, to be fair. Because working with your own senses obviously heightens things up a lot more. For the individual, you know, for them to get personal experiences like spirit touching them or tapping the leg, or, you know, them seeing something like a ball of mist or some swirling energy in the corner of a room or something. That's a personal experience. You're not going to get that rated on gadgets. You know, it's a case of sometimes they want to show the person something unique to them, you know, something that they're going to feel comfortable with, rather than, you know, some people find all the lights going off and gadgets going out, you know, going mental. It frightens them because they don't know what's going on. Whereas if spirit are trying to show themselves in a mist, or they're just tapping them or stroking the hair, they feel a bit comfortable with that, because they know, oh, well, you know, obviously I can sort of like try and debunk that rationally. I can say that's just my imagination. But when things go off in front of them, that sort of like can freak people out and think, well, obviously I know that that's not us touching, that's what's doing that. When they know that certain things like a REM pod, you've got to get very close to the antenna to break that EMF field to get it to trigger off. So, you know, explaining the equipment to the guests, as we do when we're doing our investigations, it helps to limit that sort of like fear factor when they do go off, you know, to stop them from feeling so fearful of it, and have a bit more better understanding of what's happening in the environment to cause that to go off.
I say we always explain the equipment as well throughout us doing the investigating. So if we've got, like Lynda says, a REM pod, we're going to explain to the guests and say, this is what it is, this is what it does to trigger it off, and this is what we're hoping to get from it. Because, you know, we do get quite a lot of new people who have had an interest, but they're not exactly sure what to expect. And of course, you know, with that, we've always got to be mindful that despite us having a lot of regular guests come on, we've got to be mindful of any new people that come on to explain to them things and go over things with them, because they might not be sure what things are for. So it's always good to do that.
Absolutely. It always reminds me of a guest that we took to Shrewsbury Prison, and she had to come out of one of the experiments because we were using the SB7. And because she was hearing responses to the questions that was put, that freaked her out so much. She was like, I didn't think it was real, but that is genuine and that is a real phenomena. And she was absolutely scared out of her wits.
I can imagine.
So I got my medium to go out with her, get her down a bit, explain what happened, what the experiment was, and just try and set her mind at rest, basically. That's all it was. And she went home happy, but she was really freaked out. I love it when those sort of things happen.
Well, same here. It's always good when they get experiences like that, especially the skeptical ones as well. Always adds.
I think when they've had a few experiences that they leave an event and they're scratching their head thinking, well, I can't debunk that. I don't understand what's happened there. To me, that's a good thing, because they've had something that they didn't expect to have, and it's left them with more questions than answers as well. So, you know, it gives them something that they can't explain rationally, but they can't understand it either. You know, so.
And I say at the end of the day, when it comes to members of the public, it's all about giving an experience, and you know, you can only hope for them to have an experience. And obviously, for that woman at Shrewsbury, it was more than an experience, but it's one that she'll never forget.
Exactly.
And you know, but for better or for worse, you know, because she was scared, bless her. But you know, she'll never forget that, and that's what you want. You want guests to enjoy themselves, have an experience, and hopefully want to come back for more to find out more and experience more.
Yeah.
So,
do you find that with some groups you don't get much activity because
without a doubt. I mean, taking point our recent event, we did this old Victorian school in a place called Melbourne in South Derbyshire. And it's a lovely little building it is. And my group, we had all sorts of different things happening. We had some equipment going off. We did the Estes experiment, the Estes method. And we got some interesting results and words and dates that come through. In fact, both our groups had the date 1910 come through, and that was weird.
It was,
So that's strange. But yeah, I say my group, we had quite a bit more than your group, because Lynda's group, had some
very
bits,
sporadic.
Sporadic's probably the best way to describe it. But you know, your group didn't have much compared to ours, and it's been like that with other places we've investigated.
It's been the other way around,
where my groups had barely anything, but Lynda groups has had plenty. So
it's all about the energies of the people. That's actually individuals as well, I believe. You know, if they've got like I say, an open mind, and they put as much energy into it, you get something back out of it.
Absolutely.
You know, but if you're going to sit there and say nothing and just disengage from what's going on, obviously you're not going to get a hell of a lot the whole night that you're there, you know, because you've almost removed yourself from it already before you've even started.
Interesting. Is there any particular evidence that you've caught that it just astounded you?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely. And oh boy, it literally haunts me to this day because I can't explain it. So one of our guests, we did an event last September at the Galleries of Justice in Nottingham. And Lynda's group was in the debtor's cell, and it was in this area where one of our colleagues, Mark, he felt like this dark, negative, oppressive feeling that was like moving over to his right hand side, and he felt as if someone was just kind of watching over him, trying to kind of almost take him into a trance like state. And Lynda said that in her kind of mind's eye, she could see this figure, this gentleman. And he said he had a right grotesque face, and he had like almost like a beard and everything. But he looked proper nasty. Which you know, at first you think, well, anyone could just say that, fair enough. But then one of the guests said, "Oh, can I take some pictures?" And of course, we always say at the start of the night, we always encourage guests to take photos. We say the more photos you take, the more likely you'll capture something. And I say this is a perfect example of why we do say that, because this lady, she took, I think, at least six, about 6 or 7 photos in total. And I think if it was 6 photos, but 5 of them were just nothing. Everything seemed normal, all except one photo, and you can clearly see an apparition of a gentleman. You can see the facial features, the eyebrows, the eyes, the nose, the beard, his face, his neck, his arms. You can see him almost in motion, as if he was looking at our colleague Mark, but then was looking towards where the camera was. At the same time. It's one of them where you have to look at it and you can see there's no kind of camera trickery or anything like that. It is proper unexplainable. And of course, we went back to debunk it to see if we can try and recreate it. Took a load of photos again, but absolutely nothing. And interestingly enough, this male apparition that appeared was on the right hand side of our colleague Mark, where he had described this feeling of his negative energy right next to him. And of course, Lynda saw it where he was as well. And the fact that guest captured it was absolutely phenomenal.
And I think the weirdest thing at that time was as well, is he started off by swinging one of the heavy chains behind Mark. That's what started the whole activity session off. And of course, we were watching the chain swinging for no apparent reason, because it was really heavy. It was the only chain that was swinging. There was no draft to cause it. And I mean, we even tried to debunk it by seeing if he'd knocked it and that could have set it swinging. And of course, we knocked it and it just moved once and then it stopped. So but there was just continually swinging the whole time. And that was before he started manifesting at his right-hand side. And as he was doing that, because Mark is a channeler, he can channel spirit, which means that spirit can often get into him to actually speak or look at you or talk to you or communicate. And of course, I knew that's what his game plan was, to do that with Mark. So I was constantly watching to make sure Mark was safe and he was okay, as well as watching this chap, what he was doing. I also had another spirit above, in the floor above on the other side of the room, which is all officers in the daytime. It's locked off at night. Right. So I had a spirit up there banging on the ceiling to get my attention, to go out there while he was being let to do whatever he wanted to do where Mark was concerned. And of course I was like to-ing and fro-ing between the rooms, trying to find out what he was doing, banging on that. At the same time, watching the other guy weren't going to go fully into Mark, which meant then I had a problem because I didn't want him to do that. You know, it wasn't the time or place for that sort of thing on a public event. That's something we do probably on a private one, but not on a public. And of course, you know, trying to stop him from doing what his intentions were, you know, as well, and trying to get him to back away from Mark's energy and from his body, not to do anything. At the same time, trying to stop this other chap from trying to get attention at the same time. So it was a bit of a massive burst of energy that night. It really was in that place.
So I'm going to try and, I don't know if the webcam will pick it up. I'm going to try and show that photo.
Okay, yeah.
See that?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
I say the more you look at it, the more you start seeing the facial features and everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, a photo like that, and you can see it's even transparent, because you can see some of the trains in the background through the body and the table and everything. So it's very, very strange. And I say I can't explain it. Like I said, you know, the team went back on a break to go down and try and debunk it, take more photos, see if we can recreate it.
Nothing came close to that.
No. So that was very strange.
That was,
yeah.
So
I think
we had another instance as well.
Yeah, do you want to explain?
That was at Newark Civil War Museum, and that again was a public event that we were doing.
Yeah.
Whereabouts is that?
So it's the National Civil War Museum in Newark on Trent in Nottinghamshire.
I think I've been there.
Yeah. And this was downstairs in the basement part, in the cellar area, where it was a first aid room for wounded soldiers during the
wounded citizens.
Sorry, I apologize.
When like the Luftwaffe and when the bombings were dropped, anyone that got injured were kind of brought down there to kind of be looked after, treated, and it was also used as an air raid shelter as well for the locals of Newark. And my group went down into that cellar area, and it's like this long corridor bit. You've got the first aid room, which is on the left. And then further down, you've got kind of this open space area where the group kind of congregated and we started calling out, seeing what we would pick up on. Guests were they had a really kind of unsettling feeling.
There's not many of them that wanted to stay down there, to be quite fair.
They didn't like it one bit. They really didn't. No. And one of the guests said, "Oh, am I right to just go back down that corridor and take some photos in the first aid room?" I said, "Yeah, of course." I thought hopefully you might capture something. And lo and behold, she did. So she took a bunch of like front-facing photos inside the room, and on the break after we'd done the vigil, she was looking through the photos, and she noticed one of the photos was actually facing towards her in a selfie mode, and there was only one of them, but she didn't click to the camera to make it flip. So she thought that's strange, and you can even see in the photo as well, like you can tell that she wasn't doing it, she wasn't aware of planning it at all. And interestingly enough, in that one photo which did flip, you can see right behind her shoulder the face of a man, as if watching at her. Bearing in mind that behind her was just a brick wall because it was a tunnel. And of course,
you went down
our colleague Katrina and myself and the woman, the guest who took the photo, we all went back down to try and recreate it on the break, and again, couldn't do it. All you see in the background is just brick wall. I'll see if I can get the photo up.
But the fact was the chap's face that was emanating from the darkness was actually he'd got his own face illuminated as well. So it's all like almost created his own light to see the features of his face, which I find is always intriguing where spirit concerned, how they manage to do that, but they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's got the photo.
Awesome.
So let's see if I can
see if you can see it. I'm not sure if you can see that from that angle. Now you have to move it a bit more over. You can see the illumination.
You can see something behind her, can't you?
Yeah. I don't know if you can see it that well.
Trying to angle it as best as, but
it just looks like a bright light, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So you can't really see it clearly on here, but
we'll have to send it to your page and you can have a look at it better that way.
what we can see from this photo is you've got her obviously caught off guard taking that photo, not knowing that it actually flipped, which was very strange.
Yeah, it was.
But equally as strange was that behind her shoulder is a face of a gentleman looking at her and looking at her quite menacingly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, very
like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
But it's interesting to know that it was just, but all behind was brick wall because it was a tunnel.
Yeah,
because it was just like a room that's just off from the tunnel. So
that's right. And we were all picking up on this male presence as well. All of the people that went down there that night, even though no one told each other what they were picking up on, at the end of the night, everyone said we picked up on that same energy, same person. Yeah, so it was really odd and bizarre.
Yeah.
I went again when I went to Shrewsbury Prison. We had shadow people turning up.
Yeah.
That was quite interesting.
Yeah,
it was always in the same. I think it was the men's wing, and I experienced it. I was sitting on my own in the middle of the. I was sitting on the steps, and you look down the corridor, the whole hallway or whatever they call it, and in the bit that was just for putting people into solitary confinement, I just kept seeing the shadow of a head and shoulders just poking out every now and again, looking at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" just over there still.
Very curious.
But I didn't say anything, and I had a further 3 groups that all experienced that, all from different angles. One was actually in the cell, and they see it walk past. Another one, what was it they were doing? I can't remember. But they see it come out of one of the cells.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the other group did. But they all, at the end of it, we had like a debrief, and we all experienced a shadow person in the same area. And I thought that was really interesting.
I think it always is when multiple people experience the same thing. It's.
I was going to say, it kind of backs it up that there's definitely something
going on there.
Because if you've got more than, like, say, one group or a bunch of people in different groups that are experiencing that same bit of activity, it's definitely something there without a doubt. It's not just one person who, they might think, oh, maybe it's just a trick of the eye, or they've just seen someone out the corner of the eye, might be just playing tricks or something. But it's not in their mind. It's actually
multiple angles, from multiple angles as well.
No, exactly. That makes it even more.
It makes it, it makes it more compelling and interesting. That just kind of further proves that what people have been seeing. It's not just in their mind; they're actually seeing something.
Yeah,
what it is or who it is
another story.
That's what we've got to try and find out. Yeah,
that's it. I was at Shrewsbury Prison a week before Most Haunted was, and they got obviously they got loads of activity. I think Fred Bat apparently Fred Bat opened up a portal to bring more spirit in, and it's like, the place is already highly active. Why bother? You don't need to do that.
That's right.
That's it.
And there was no crowbars there that were thrown at the
no marbles been thrown.
No, none of that. And another location I went to, I don't know if you've done it, Codner Castle.
Yes,
we have. The cottage bit.
Yeah.
Did you get much activity there?
Yeah, we did.
We got some interesting stuff. Yeah,
we had a phone call with the man that's upstairs in one of the bedrooms. He actually shut my phone off twice. He didn't want to talk. He was like hanging up straight away. I said, "How rude!" I mean, he wanted to say hello to you, but third time lucky, he actually spoke through it and had quite a decent conversation as well. So, I was interested in. I think it was Viv Powell who originally did that phone experiment.
Myself,
I thought that was quite interesting. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting the way. That spirit can utilize something as simple as a phone. I mean, we've had them interrupt our walkies as well, where when we're on our group vigils, if we're in a big location, we'll have our walkie-talkies with us, and they'll stop us from communicating with each other. They'll just shut the radio signal down, and then they'll start interfering with it.
I've had it the other way around, where they've actually communicated through the radio.
Yeah, we've had that as well.
Times as well,
where they'll try and speak through it, or they'll block it, depending on where you are and what it is that you're trying to say.
I'm trying to remember what the event was, but there was one. I know there was one time where it sounded like you were talking through the walkie.
That's right, yes, and I was even on the radio.
Yeah,
because
it sounded exactly like her voice. And I said to her, I said, "Yeah, Lynda, I can hear you. What's up?" And she's just like, "What do you mean, what's up? Is everyone all right?" I thought, "Yeah, you're all right." She's like, "Yeah, why are you radioing?" I was like, "No, you radioed me." She's like, "No, I didn't."
I didn't have the radio even on me. One of my other
colleagues. It was the other colleague that had the radio. Anyway.
I didn't even have it.
So I thought it was very strange mimicking a voice like that.
I had exactly the same experience. It was at Charlton House, and it was my business partner at the time. We heard her voice, and it weren't just me. It was like the other teams that had radios. They all heard her voice call us down for a break. And she swears blind to this day that it wasn't her.
It weren't her.
Yeah.
That is strange.
I think this is it, isn't it? You know, it's...
But this is what fuels your curiosity, because things like this happen, and you think to yourself, what if there is something else out there? And you kind of want to see if anything else would happen. And that I think it's the big thing that kind of hooks us with the paranormal is there's so much of the unknown that we want to know and that we'll probably never know, but it's just that curiosity of wanting to know that keeps us coming back for more.
That's it. And I mean, let's face it, I mean, everyone focuses on spirit being living human beings. Spirit could be anything. It doesn't have to be even human as far as that goes. You know, there are so many elements in the universe that energy can transform into. It doesn't have to be always human. You can
I'm really skeptical. And when people talk about spirit energy, okay, I do understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
But what is spirit energy?
Well, it's obviously, as far as I'm concerned, even we're made up of spiritual energy because we come from the same place as we go back to. You know, we're just encapsulated in this vessel, but we do have spirit energy within us. That's what keeps our soul alive when we depart. You know, that's the part of the subconscious we keep evolving with the energy that we've got.
It just amazes me how people talk about spirit energy all the time.
Yeah.
But they don't actually know what it is. But they still claim that it affects the EMF meters, for example, on the REM pods.
Yeah.
We don't actually know it is the spirit. It could be something completely different.
Exactly. This is right. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, it goes to back to the idea of what is a ghost, what is a spirit, because the idea that a ghost or spirit is a former human being who has lived and died and is still roaming around the earth and the universe, that is just one explanation of many explanations of what a ghost could be. So, you know, what we're thinking that maybe a spirit person's communicating with us, it might be something entirely different and we wouldn't know. Well,
I mean, I've communicated with something. I've communicated a few times with something that isn't earthly bound. It isn't human. It's not elemental. It's other, as I would call it. That just comes from a different, completely dimension to where we come from, and it's everything is dimensional. Really, the universe is dimensional. So obviously, that's you're bound to come across these things that people sometimes mistake as spirit when they're not a living spirit. There's something else, something otherworldly, as I would say. But that don't mean say they can't communicate either.
No, that's it. I mean, I've had a communication going on a Ouija board, and the spirit that came through was actually to a friend of mine, and we used to talk quite a bit, and it was like she'd explain it like a computer game.
Yeah.
So we're on this level. Once we're finished with this level, we go up to the next
one.
And
then once you've done whatever you need to do on that level, you go up again. And you ascend, essentially. You can communicate back, but you shouldn't be able to communicate forward.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
exactly what I get told as well. I mean, obviously, with me being very spiritually attuned, I always speak to my guides and I ask no end of questions. I mean, I'm a very curious person. If I even speak or communicate with spirit, they're like, oh God, here she goes, 20 questions, here we are. She's going to be asking everything and anything. She wants to know the ins and outs, dates, times, places, people, because that's what I am. I'm very curious. I want to know definitive proof, and I'll know if they're lying to me. If they're saying, oh, I'm from this state and they're not, I'll know. I'll just instinctively know that they are lying because I can see them. I know they're not from that time period. They're probably dressed in something from the 12th century, and they're telling me that they're from the 15th century. Well, I know full well that not, by the way that they look, the way that they're dressed. So, you know, it's like, are you sure? Because I know you're lying to me, so be honest, because lying don't get you nowhere with me. I know. So, you know, and that really is something I think they find quite annoying in some sorts of the way, because they know there's nothing they can hide from me information wise. They know I already know the information. It just hacks them off that I asked them to give that information to other people, because not everyone can talk to them. You know, not everyone has got the ability to hear, see, or feel spirit. And those that don't, I want them to have the evidential proof. You know, that if I say, oh, Joe Bloggs has stood there right next to that REM pod, right, you touch that REM pod and let them see that you're there. And then that REM pod goes off because I've told them on command to touch it. Yeah. And then, like, how's that gone off when you just asked them to touch it? That makes it more, you know, the fact they're doing it on command makes it more evidential in a sense that there is something transpiring to cause that to go off. So, especially with a REM, because you have to touch the antenna. I mean, obviously, K2, there's a lot of things that can trigger that off. So it's not quite as easy to debunk when you've got a building full of wires anyway. And obviously, K2 is not used for picking up spiritual energy. It's for obviously for electrics.
Absolutely.
To be detected. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's fluctuations. It's to do with wiring and stuff that are in the wall and live things that's there. That's basically what they were produced for, not for what we use them for. So, you know, obviously it can pick up a lot more array of different things than what you want it to pick up.
Yeah. I mean, going back to Codner Castle and the phone experiment, I mean, Viv created.
Yes.
We've improved it a little bit by adding cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
But when we experienced it, we got the date 2010 off of the spirit that alleged communicated that.
Yeah.
And we could hear a TV being played in the background.
I actually heard the footage. I watched it. Yeah, it was really interesting.
It was
very interesting.
Well, we identified that as a movie called Night of the Demon.
Wow.
And it was last played on terrestrial TV in 2010.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it all sort of tied in. We did arrange to go back and investigate even further. But the guy that run it, he refused. He wouldn't let us do it.
Oh, such a shame.
That's a shame.
Like, well, yeah, it just sort of makes you think. Then are they doing something?
It does. Yeah.
I did.
It's like the case of 39 de Grey Street. I mean, it's been called like an orphanage, a mortuary, and I'm trying to think. Is it Mike Covell, a local historian in that area? He's debunked a lot of it and said no, it's just made up nonsense, because he's got archives and he's looked through the history and the records, and the owners banned him from going anywhere near him, and he's kind of put a restraining order out on him, saying come anywhere near my house and the police will come. And it makes you think, you know, are they just making things up? Are they trying to create things?
When it first came out on the scene, we was doing a podcast, my paranormal concept show that I also do with Kerry. We got to have a free session in there. So like the 2% went up and investigated it. We didn't really get that much. He said about there's people report scraping in the walls, but I think that was either the pigeons in the loft or rats. You know, it could quite easily be those. So we sort of debunked that. But the medium that came with us, she was very much adamant that there are spirit there, but they're not intelligent hauntings. They're just replaying.
Residual visitations.
That's the word, residual. I couldn't think of that. Been a long day today.
That's all right, don't worry.
Residual hauntings, So you know, there was like a maid that was coming in at the rooms and did, you know, making the beds and stuff, and then you'd go into another one and there's an old fella sitting in there and he don't want you there. So you know, and just they just are there, but they're not really active.
No.
And I think, you know, the more people go in there and annoy them, then they're gonna. There could be. They could be quite active at some stage. But I did think at the time there was a lot of dangerous places in that place because it was it was disused and in a really bad state. So I actually emailed the person who was arranging all the ghost hunts and said, look, in my capacity as St John Ambulance, I think you need to make it a little bit more safer for people to go in.
Absolutely,
there's like bulges in the roof where the water's damaging the ceilings and it's going to fall down on someone's head.
Exactly, it's going to get someone hurt.
Either someone's going to fall down a hole, or someone part of the roof's going to fall on someone. Or
so they were like, okay, that brilliant, thanks for that. We'll get it sorted. I'm assuming they did or not.
Yeah, I hope so.
Never been back since.
No, I was going to say it's one place we've never been to. So
I was going to say, when was it that you went?
Oh, literally when it first came out on the scene.
Right, so
it was quite a while ago.
2018, 2017. I think that's when we investigated it.
2018, I should imagine.
And I can't recall there being any like holes anywhere, if I remember.
No.
So maybe they did patch some of it up. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember that far back.
But this is well before they put in any of the decor in there.
Yeah.
It was literally just an empty shell of a building.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I've done it. But no, I mean, it's an interesting place. It came on the scene. We thought, hell yeah, we'll do that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I've even done 30 East Drive. It's the same.
Oh yeah.
Like we spoke to Bill, the guy that owned the house, and said we want to do a show on 30 East Drive.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, come up and do an investigation, do it live from the house, and promote his movie as well.
Yeah.
So he was like, yeah, okay, we'll come and do that. Again, we didn't really get anything. It was quite pleasant, really.
Yeah.
I did find it amusing though, because they decorated it as 1970s or 60s or whatever.
Oh,
but they had a nice flat screen TV in it.
Very original.
Yeah. Something sticks out. What could it
They put that in there so you could watch the movie of.
I bet that's the real reason why.
Yeah, that's it.
It was funny.
The game's the game.
I feel quite honoured that these places let us in just to do shows and stuff, and they waive the fee for us. I mean, we only go in as a small group of 2 or 3 anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just publicising it, really, isn't it? I think that's why they go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done it before where we've had private investigations at places, and the owners or the management of the venue have let us in for free because they first of all want to see what we pick up on, but also it's publicity for them as well because they know we'll share their pages and talk about them, and of course more people talking, the better business for them. So
no, absolutely. Do you do private investigations, so like members of the public?
We've actually got our private team one coming up on Saturday this week, and we're very privileged to be one of the first teams, apart from the team who actually owns the Haunted Oddities Museum in Nottingham.
Okay.
So Maria's kindly let ourselves in to the team to go in and investigate on a team only on the Saturday, and then we also have got another event with our guests, same location.
Oh, are you on about that?
The separate one for
the separate one, yeah. My apologies.
So we've got two times to go. Once as a team, once with the public as well. Yeah.
What about like private house investigations?
I've done those as well.
I'd say the recent one we done was it's what's known as the Railway Cottage up in Mansfield.
Yeah.
And apparently it used to be one of the homes for Florence Nightingale, which is they were doing some renovation work at the time, and they're kind of hiring it out for people to do private investigations and try and use some of that funding to go back into the restoration and renovation of the building. And we've got a few bits of that interest activity. Like it was a bit like Codner, where it was very kind of dilapidated, a bit derelict.
Not
on the big scale that Castle Cottage was, but it was quite interesting. We had a lot of EMF spikes that come out of nowhere, and we try and debunk it, saying, "Oh, is it just like dangling wires?" But there's barely any wires around anyway. And even if there are wires, there's the whole thing's dilapidated.
So there's no time there wasn't even any electricity in the building, so
it was really cold.
It was pretty much really in a bad state than what it is now. I mean, obviously it's more done up now. It's got electricity, running water. It's got a toilet, which it didn't have either. We had to bring our own porta toilet. Because obviously, if you needed to go, you had a long walk to find one.
The garden bucket.
The paranormal one.
We had like taps as well. There were, because we did a live feed from there as well for about an hour, and there was a bit on the live feed. I was on the upstairs floor, and like it's that kind of not done up that you can actually see gaps in the floor when you see down below. So of course the team that were downstairs, I was saying, be quiet whilst I, call out and see if we can get anything. And that's when, we started hearing these kind of like knocks. And of course, I'm asking, saying, okay, is it one of you moving? Of course, they're saying, no, we're not moving at all. We they said they heard it. You said you heard it, but they were keeping still. And of course, because you can see through the little gaps in the floorboard, you can see if anyone's moving. No one's moving. And you kept just hearing like these kind of constant knocks in the room, and you couldn't really tell whether it's from the floor or whether it's from the wall or the ceiling. It was very, very strange, but it was consistent, and I thought, because it was consistent, maybe there might be something more to it.
But in relation to like other private houses as such, one did actually stick out, and that wasn't too far from where I live. I had a lady contact me and asked me to come out to her home because she was petrified, because a previous paranormal team had actually been in there. They charged her to go into the property to attain what was going on in it. I think they charged her something like £150 to get into the house. Yep, charged her to get into the property. They told her that her house was full of demons. And basically they left it at that and said, right, well, we've done our bit, £150, thank you very much, and cleared off and left her to it. Obviously, the woman had got children in the house. She was absolutely petrified. She was crying. She was beside herself with worry for her children's safety because of what this other team had told her, what was in the property. I went in there and I said to her, there's no demons in here whatsoever. The only one person that's in here that's causing the activity is your grandfather. I described to her what her grandfather looked like. He had a special stamp engraved on his pocket watch. And I told her what that was, what it read. And straight away, she knew it was her grandfather, because the only person that knew that was her and him, because she'd bought that for him. And no one in the family even knew it was engraved. So that was, to her, was the defining moment that changed her perception, that it wasn't what she was told it was. It was just a grandfather that was making the noises, obviously checking on the children to make sure they were okay, because the children were seeing things, obviously the things that they didn't understand, shadows and things like that. And of course, it was all him that was doing it. And obviously, he felt awful, the fact that someone had been in and called him like a demon. He says, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted her to let her know that I was still here and watching over her, because they had a very close bond when he was living. And the EMFs that we were picking up on that were causing her young son to hallucinate was all in the wall. The wall was rigged with that much. It was just going off the scale. And we'd actually got several K2s, and you could see clearly where the spikes were all going, and it was all down to what was behind the wall. And we found out that the neighbours next door to her had a load of bodged electrician people in that had bodged up the work, but they left the wires all still buried in the wall. They never, when they came to redo it, they never took the wires out. So it was causing the high EMF spikes that were bleeding through to her house, which was causing her children to feel like someone's constantly watching them, the paranoia sensation from high EMF, being exposed to that all the time. And of course, when they got somebody to go and sort that out, it all stopped. All the problems that the child was having had stopped completely. And as soon as she knew it was her grandfather that was in the property, the whole atmosphere in the house had just calmed down. It was just like she was totally different on the phone. 2 months later, she was like, I can't believe the change in how I feel. You know, I feel so much more at peace yet beforehand. I was a wreck.
I'm more disgusted that they charged her.
Yeah, they did. I couldn't believe it myself. I really could not believe it myself.
There was actually a question the other day on social media somewhere that said there was a paranormal team in the US that charged. I think they did charge an extortionate amount of money for the investigation.
Bloody hell.
Crazy.
But I was going to actually ask you, what do you think about charging for?
I don't do it.
I was going to say, going into someone's property,
I'd like to be able to help them, because at the end of the day,
I was going to say, I wouldn't even come across the thought of having to charge them.
They're there because they're asking for help, for answers, for assistance, and especially when you've got young children as well involved, that makes it even more prevalent to go and help them.
Yeah,
because obviously,
I've never
dream of charging.
No, ever. I don't think I'd ever charge.
I don't think anyone should do that, to be fair, because if they are doing that, they're in it for the wrong reasons, aren't they?
Yeah,
but they're in it to make money off people's fear.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but to play devil's advocate a bit, there are obviously good teams like yourself. I've done private investigations and done a really good job, and they've always said, like, do you want payment? And I'm like, no, don't worry about it. But thinking to play devil's advocate, you're providing a service.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't you charge?
Why shouldn't you get something in return for it? Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I'll be just happy with a cuppa.
Exactly.
A cuppa and a biscuit, that'll suit me fine.
I tell you what, have you got any like digestives or custard creams? That's my payment.
I totally agree with you, and that's the sort of person I am. I don't do it.
No, but it's true when you look at it from both sides, because you see it as like offering a service.
But do you have to charge 150 quid?
150
no,
for less than half an hour to walk? I mean, these people didn't even use any equipment.
No,
they just walked in, looked around. Right, you got demons. See you later. 150 quid. Thank you very much. And just leave her so distraught like that.
Yeah.
How in God's name can you justify even doing that? And where did you get the demons from when you haven't even investigated the house either to warrant what you're telling them?
But then when, like, people like yourself and myself, you go in, do an investigation, you come out, you do some research, you could go back, put things in place to help protect that person or help move the spirit on, whatever. You are providing a service to them. So why did you not just charge, I don't know, 30, 40 quid just for that service? I mean, I think that's quite a reasonable thing.
I suppose so.
I know what you mean,
it's just not my character, I just love helping people. That's what I feel that I'm here to do, is help people, whether that be help people with their understanding and journey in the spiritual aspect, helping people understand what's going on in buildings, helping them with the paranormal, explaining about equipment, what it does, what it don't do, educating people, giving them a bit more things to absorb information wise, rather than just plonking some equipment in their hand. Right, hold that, call out, do this, do that.
Absolutely. I do find that a friend quite a long time ago, he actually said that there's a lot of people out there that want you to come in, do a live episode of Most Haunted in their living room.
And we don't do any of that. At the end of the day, we believe anything you get evidence is what you get. If you get nothing all night, you don't get it.
Nothing,
At the end of the day, they're not performing monkeys, are they? So if they don't do it, they won't do it.
One of the last investigations that I've done, and it did involve a demon of sorts. I hate using that term, but it was actually a recorded demon that come across. This lady was being attacked in a home, and she wanted someone to come in and investigate. She had a team. They were so far out of their depth, they actually called me in. So I went in, done my investigation. In the course of the investigation, we tried to find out what this entity was, and we asked for a name, and on a Ouija board this was, and it gave us a name, and we thought that just makes no sense whatsoever. What am I supposed to do with this? But we went away, done some research on the name that it said, and it turned out that it was a Norse god, like a Norse demon.
Mm.
And everything that lady was talking about that she experienced is how this demon operates.
Right.
So we sort of tied it in. So I'm quite fortunate actually to have a occultist / demonologist on our team, and we told him about it, gave him all the evidence and everything, and he was like, right, okay. So the way you get rid of this demon is that he gave us a Norse spell.
Yeah.
And he said, do this with it, do that with it. And so we went back, we done everything that he said, and it's worked. She has no more problems with it whatsoever.
Cool. How did she come across this, just out of curiosity? How did this thing happen to be around her and cause her so much?
I can't remember what the name of it was off the top of my head. But it starts, this demon has demon dogs.
Oh, it's not Fenrir or something like that, is it?
It could be something like that. It was really weird. And he would basically send in these creatures, and it wins them over, the victim. And as soon as they are open to these creatures, it allows this other demon to come in and attack. The lady in question, she was adamant that they were cats, but she said she could feel the hairs, but they were really coarse, which sort of all fit with what this demon was doing. She obviously wanted the cat's attention, so she welcomed them in, and by doing that, she brought in this entity as well. So we've done all this spell work and Norse spells and stuff, and it seems to work. So just a little bit of research.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have to dig too hard for that either. No. So I don't know why this other team couldn't have done that.
No.
I don't know.
Sometimes
don't put that effort
if they
anymore.
couldn't handle it, then why did they not reach out for the help, rather than her having to seek it out herself,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's all too often teams, like you say, get a bit way over their head. And if they do that, then why don't they reach out to the relevant people who know a bit more and ask them to come and help out, and support, rather than try and take it on themselves to think they know what they're dealing with when they don't.
Even pull resources, they could always be an advanced team, send them in to get all the questions answered, and then hand it over to the more experienced ones and learn.
That's right, absolutely, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
At the end of the day, the main thing is getting the result for the person who's involved in all of this, isn't it, really? Making this happen to go away, so is that way she's not getting taunted all the time.
But we kept in contact with her for a little while after that, and she was quite happy that we'd done a really good job, and she's like, do you want payment? Do you want paying? I was like, no. And she said, what about all the stuff you bought? I was like, no, it's fine, it's all free. We enjoyed doing it. We, enjoyed the cup and the cake.
That's it.
That's it.
So we've come to the end of the show. We've gone a little bit over, but it doesn't.
Oh gosh,
it's
gone that quick, hasn't it?
If anyone wants to contact you for either a private investigation or readings, or even come onto your events, how do they?
Do you want to do the honours?
So first of all, anyone that wants to come and book on our upcoming events for this year and into the next, we've got our own website. It's www.Brookes, that's Brookes with an E, paranormal.co.uk. And if you go onto that website, you head over to our event page, and then you can see all the upcoming events we've got throughout the year, and like I said, into the next. And of course, if anyone's got any questions they want to ask us, the team, or if they want to reach out for a private, or if they've got any hauntings in their own house and they kind of want to reach out for any sort of help and support, we've got a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Brookes Paranormal. And if you message us on our page, we'll get back to you as soon as, and we'll go from there. And
the same goes for any readings as well. If anyone wants any, they can also contact me via the page as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to come out and join you on an investigation.
You must do. You must do.
Really good to see you.
It'll be a true paranormal adventure.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. I'll be checking out your events just to see which ones I haven't done before. Although I've never done the Galleries of Justice, and I've not done the Robin Hood experience either.
Two good places they are, definitely.
Oh, you've not done the galleries?
No, never been there.
Oh, you definitely got to come on.
Got to get on that one, definitely. I think you're the very, very first person that I've come across that said they've not actually done it. I think most people have actually done it. So that's really that you've not done it.
I'm originally from Essex,
right.
and now I'm up in Warwickshire now.
So it's more closer.
Not too far.
I'm like closer now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting there.
That's it.
But there's so many better locations up there. Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure
on the show.
Cool, no worries. And we'll definitely have to get you back at some point.
Absolutely.
Love to be back. Thank you.
No worries. All right, so that's all the show for tonight.
Okay.
Brilliant stuff.
Yep. No worries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everyone who's
watching.
Welcome.
Yep. Thank you everyone in the chat room, and we shall be back next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.